What?
Slides.
You want to put it on Zoom?
Yeah.
Zoom. Okay. Zoom. Can I have the mridanga? Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari 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 Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari 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 Jasodanandana Brajacanaranjana Jasodanandana Brajacanaranjana Jasodanandana Brajacanaranjana Jasodanandana Brajacanaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachadi Jamuna Tira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari 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 Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari 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 Jasodanandana Vrajacanaranjana Jasodanandana Vrajacanaranjana Jasodanandana Vrajacanaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachadi Jamuna Tira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari 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 Jayom Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parividakasaraja Astatara Satasi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Gaur Premanandi. Okay. It was a challenge to take spaghetti and make cartels out of it.
Yeah, exactly. I was just trying to
Did you do that on purpose? You're just like frustrating him. Maybe after class you can untangle the strings so we can actually have two pairs of kartals. Okay? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 We're reading from Canto 10, Chapter 14, Brahma's Prayers to Krishna. That's what's in the image here. And text number 8. 10, 14, 8. It's a very important verse. It appears in Bhagavad Gita twice. It's kind of like a guidepost for those who live in this world, particularly devotees, how to deal with circumstances that are difficult. Because every now and then, as the wheel of time spins, difficulty comes. And then what do? So the prior verse that we discussed yesterday was text 3, where Brahma is building a case, or in his prayers, of the singular importance of bhakti and the subordinate and lesser importance, in fact, udapasya, to be given up, the process of mental speculation to understand higher reality, understand truth, understand Krishna, understand how to live our lives. Jnane prayasa udapasya namanta eva. Offering obeisances, namanta. Obeisances unto what? Obeisances unto, but it's not even just unto Krishna, but unto topics in relation to Krishna. Sanmukharitam. The translation Prabhupada has given us is the, oops, it's not Prabhupada. Yes, it is, because it's taken from Chaitanya Charitamrita. The qualities and the pastimes, but anything in relation to Krishna. To that sound vibration is not different than Krishna. That point is not made, but it's not different than Krishna. And devotees dedicate their lives to those topics, which is what we're doing every morning and every evening. Sanmukharitam bhavadiya vartan, tanuvan manobhir, with body, mind, and words. Tanu, mana, tanu, van, vak, words, speech, and mana. So body, speech, and mind, dedicated to those topics. By that method, the devotional method, Krishna is pleased. And when he's pleased, he gives himself to the degree that he becomes conquered by the love of his devotees. So it's an important verse. And then the subsequent verses up to verse 8, he gives further elaboration on that point. That the superiority and supremacy of bhakti, those who are jnanis, what they can reach, those are yogis, what they can reach, and then he comes full circle around to bhakti. So it's glorification of bhakti, bhakti, bhakti. And then this is the end of this little section, verses 1 through 8. He has made a big mistake. We sometimes make mistakes. You ever made a mistake? Yeah. And when you make a mistake, you take responsibility for those mistakes. And sometimes, if it's a really, really big one, as what Brahma did, he's going to get spanked. He's going to get a reaction. He's going to get some consequences for his big mistake. And he's ready for it. Because when you know something is coming that's going to be problematic. Commonly what happens is everything, all of your resources, your thought process, your intelligence, your defenses, everything goes to like redirecting that misfortune that's coming your way. Minimize it, deal with it, just become absorbed in the temporary. And since the flow of the temporary is nonstop, that's material consciousness, trying to enjoy, trying to minimize suffering in the realm of the temporary, because happiness means enjoying the temporary. That's material consciousness. And when absorbed like that, then real happiness is not to be found. One of the university programs I conducted not so long ago was at the University of Maryland. It was, it's nice to get back after pandemic and people start to gather together, even with masks. But anyway, so there was one person in the audience that was kind of quiet, and some people were not quiet, and they wanted to ask every question. And then he was quiet sitting there. And then when it got quiet, he wanted to speak, and he said, a classic, since childhood, I've been urged to be successful. And one of the ways to be successful is to do well with academics, because if you do well with academics, then you get a good job, you get good money. If you get good money, then you can live comfortably. So do well in your academics, and lots of pressure and pressure and pressure. And so here I am, I'm in my graduate studies, I'm doing really well in my academics. But I'm not satisfied. Something's missing. And I have the idea, that's why I'm here. I have the idea that there's something more, but I'm not being successful at accessing that something more. What to do? Great question. It's not stop trying to be successful, but to see what's the purpose of being successful. What does being successful really mean? What's the standard of being successful and being happy and being, ye not masu prasidati. So continue on your career path. May you do very, very well. And cultivate in a conscious, deliberate manner bhakti. So I don't want to repeat everything that we had in that exchange. There was some further back and forth. That's the mission of human life. We engage in things naturally. We had this discussion yesterday. We engage in things that we like. And the things that we like gives some hint of what our psychophysical nature is. And then sometimes there's values that drive even things that we like. And we are driven to do things that we like because the value is way up there. And so I do things whether I like it or not. I do things because it matches a value that I have. And so that's the body and the mind. Now, what about the soul? It doesn't mean neglect the body or neglect the mind, but align those things with the real purpose of human life. So when misfortune comes, the tendency is to deal with it and get just totally distracted. When things are in turmoil, how are you going to think of Krishna? And when is there not turmoil? It's degrees, more or less, but it's And supposing it's like lots of enjoyment. The enjoying spirit then becomes complacency. Very common. But this verse is a verse that's giving some nice teaching for a devotee, specific on the calamity side or misfortune side, how to orient your consciousness to cross over the misfortune. Because fortune and misfortune, they're temporary. So you tolerate the fortune or misfortune. You tolerate the fortune. You tolerate the misfortune. You don't absorb your consciousness in the fortune. You're grateful to those forces in life, ultimately Krishna, and descending for some good fortune. And when some misfortune comes, you're grateful. That's a little more challenging. But it's a essential teaching in the Bhagavatam. Won't go there because this is about, well, it's also misfortune. In Bhishma Dev's discussion, Canto 1, Chapter 9, there's 6 verses in a row where Bhishma Dev speaks and Prabhupada elaborates on when misfortune comes, how to stay Krishna conscious. So rather than repeating those ideas right now, let's go to what Brahma says. And the focus is going to bhakti. And this is the conclusion of this section 1 through 8. Brahma declares, you have unlimited qualities, and each of them are expandable to an unlimited degree. Yet the impersonalist does not and cannot realize these qualities. Try to conceive as what does unlimitedly beautiful mean? How beautiful is unlimitedly beautiful? How attractive is unlimitedly attractive? How compassionate is unlimitedly compassionate? So that's our view of the previous verses. Now, I now wish to describe both the internal and the external activities of bhakti. Nice, huh? So the internal is your attention goes to Krishna. The external is you don't invest your full time, your mind and energy and everything in the temporary. It is what it is, and you deal with it in an appropriate manner. So let's recite the verse responsively. Tate nukampam susamikshamano Bhunjana evatma kritam vipakam Vidvagvapurbhir vididhan namaste Jivetayo mukti pade sadaya bhak. I'm going to go up a notch. Tate nukampam susamikshamano Bhunjana evatma kritam vipakam Ridvagvapurbhir vididhan namaste Jiveta yo mukti pade sadaya bhak. So notice it's color coded, and the colors in the Sanskrit have corresponding colors in the English. So susamikshamano is important. That's our sincerity or earnestly. And waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy. Te anukampam. You Krishna's anukampam, Krishna's causeless mercy. You wait earnestly and patiently and sincerely for Krishna's causeless mercy, because he's going to get a reaction. So I'm ready. Bhunjana, patiently suffering. Vipakam, the reactions Atma kritam, his past misdeeds. Patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds. So his reaction is coming to me. Brahma is considering. And now what am I going to do? Am I going to invest everything in like minimizing the reaction and pleading, lighter sentence or something or running the other way or something? What should I do? Patiently suffering the reactions of past misdeeds. That's dealing with the external energy. Then it's very similar Tanuvan Manobir from the previous verse. Here's Hrid Vag Vapurbir, where Hrid, the heart, Vak, words, and Vapu, body, offering respectful obeisances. Before it was namaste. Namanta eva. So here it's namaste, offering obeisances with heart, words, and body. Is surely eligible for liberation, mukti, pade, because it has become his rightful claim. Sa dayabak. And you see that in big letters, Jiveta, put in big letters on purpose. Towards the end of this little discussion, Jiva Goswami emphasizes the word Jiveta. Wait for you to bestow your causeless mercy, Jiveta. Just stay in that position. That's the spiritual orientation towards the internal potency of Krishna. Stay with that heart, internal potency of Krishna part. That's just live your life in devotion. Same as text 3, where you're dedicating body-minded words to personality of Godhead. Let's see if we can find the page. Text 8. Here we go. Report. Srila Sridhar Swami explains in his commentary that just as a legitimate son has to simply remain alive to gain an inheritance from his father, one who simply remains alive, Jiveta, in Krishna consciousness, following the regular principles of Bhakti Yoga, automatically becomes eligible to receive the mercy of the personality of Godhead. In other words, he'll be promoted to the kingdom of God. So, sa daya bak, you inherit the property of the father. Who is Brahma's father? Huh? Garbhodaksha Vishnu, right? Yeah. Garbhodaksha Vishnu. So, an expansion of Krishna. So, his property is his abode. You inherit his property, you go back to Godhead. Sadhya Bhak implies. So as in the material rule, at least within India, it's very standard that the eldest son inherits the property of the father, assuming that the son outlives the father. But when the father is deceased, he doesn't have to have a big will and big deal. This property goes to the son. The debts go to the son too. But the assets of the father go to the son. So that's the Sadhya Bhak. Just by living. So that's Sridhar Swami makes this comment, and Jiva Goswami will see amplifies or repeats that message. Next paragraph. The word susamikshamana, susamikshamana indicates that a devotee earnestly awaits the mercy of the Supreme Lord even while suffering the painful effects of previous sinful activities. Lord Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita that a devotee who fully surrenders unto him is no longer liable to suffer reactions of his previous karma. However, because in his mind, a devotee may still maintain the remnants of previous sinful mentality, the Lord removes the last vestiges of the enjoying spirit by giving his devotee punishments that may sometimes resemble sinful reactions. The purpose of the entire creation of God is to rectify the living entity's tendency to enjoy without the Lord, and therefore the particular punishment given for a sinful activity is specifically designated to curtail the mentality that produced the activity. Ignorance covers real knowledge, and ignorance then impels one to ignorant activities, and ignorant activities cause suffering. So supposing one becomes a devotee, we're trying to become devotees, and we know from scripture that, from just this reference, karma is dissolved by bhakti. So if we're going through some tribulation, why? Because karma is dissolved. And the answer is, there's a residual tendency. And what's the residual tendency? It's ignorance. Ignorance covering desire. So the reaction for some past misdeed may be taken, but the tendency may remain. Not only may remain, tendency remains. So what's the plan? Well, bhakti has the power to remove even residual tendency. That's in 6th Canto, Chapter 1. Bhakti removes even residual tendency. Jnana doesn't do that. Bhakti has the power. But supposing I'm a little stubborn and I want to hold on to some residual tendency, Krishna is more clever. He'll take that away. And sometimes, so this is, what's the verse? From Brahma Samhita. Yas twindra gopam atavendra mahosva karma bandhana rupa palabhajanam atanoti karmadi nirda hintu kintu ja bhakti bhajam. Bhakti bhajam. For those who are devotees, if there's some difficulty, Brahma is a devotee, and he is a devotee, and he's, so the reaction to his past misdeeds has been dissolved, but the whatever tendencies may be there, he's ready. He wants Krishna to take that. I'll patiently suffer the reaction from my past misdeeds. Whatever you want to do with me. I'm not going to plead lighter sentence, please. Whatever you want to do with me. But let me not budge an inch from service to you. Mukti Pade Swadhyaya. Although a devotee has surrendered to the Lord's devotional service, until he is completely perfect in Krishna consciousness, he may maintain a slight inclination to enjoy the false happiness of this world. The Lord therefore creates a particular situation to eradicate this remaining enjoying spirit. This unhappiness suffered by a sincere devotee is not technically a karmic reaction, semicolon. It is rather the Lord's special mercy for inducing his devotee to completely let go of the material world and return home, back to Godhead. Easier said than done, right, Prabhus? Last paragraph. A sincere devotee earnestly desires to go back to the Lord's abode. Therefore, he willingly accepts the Lord's merciful punishment and continues offering respects and obeisances to the Lord with his heart, words, and body. Such a bona fide servant of the Lord, considering all hardship, a small price to pay for gaining the personal association of the Lord, certainly becomes a legitimate son of God, as indicated here by the word daya bak. Just as one cannot approach the sun without becoming fire, one cannot approach the supreme pure Lord Krishna without undergoing a rigid purificatory process, which may appear like suffering, but which is in fact a curative treatment administered by the personal hand of the Lord. We're going to speak a little bit now about destiny. It's a nice topic. And predestiny. Because it comes up. Where's free will when there's misfortune? Looks like it's predestined. So the freedom is not, the misfortune isn't going to come because I'm a nice devotee. So I shouldn't have any misfortune because I'm a nice devotee. I'm trying to be a nice devotee. So Krishna shouldn't put me through any difficulty. Or dictating. But I'm thinking of that comment Thursday evening. The equity topic. I just hearing Prabhupada speak on this point. He didn't use the word equity and the concept that's prevalent in the education system and in the corporate system with hiring, etc. But their differences are there. It's God's creation. There's differences. There are people who are this and people who are that. And there's this species, that species, and try to make a level playing field. He's created the differences. The differences are due to guna and karma. And the guna and karma are because living on is desired. This mode, that mode. Okay, you so desire. Here it is. And God made a mistake. Some people are unfortunate and we have to make a level playing field. Anyway, the concept behind it is not theistic. It's misplaced compassion. There's a way to properly place compassion where people are unfortunate. Oh boy, 1968, Prabhupada in Los Angeles, speaking against the anti-war idea, which was like really unpopular. During the counterculture era, against people being against the war in Vietnam was everywhere, not just young people, but certainly young people. It is speaking, what's the use of stopping war? Wow. Because there's going to be war. How can you stop somebody getting old and dying? Anyway, he went on for like 10 minutes. Whether young or old, some people are old and they live, some people are young and they die. So who can stop death? So misplaced doesn't mean war is good. That's not what he was advocating. But properly placing our attention in making a real permanent solution. A permanent solution instead of adjusting the shadow to make things nice. Why is the shadow there? There's light and there's an object in the way, so now there's a shadow. So go to the light. The shadow's gone. Turn your attention to the light. The shadow's gone. The shadow may be there, but you're seeing light. So that very consistent. Prabhupada is very consistent about this topic. Now, when there is misfortune, maybe it's just destined. Okay, if whatever is coming my way, que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. There was a song like that, a popular song. Que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. So we, while accepting whatever will be, we're still making choices on how to respond to whatever is going to be. And we're making choices in the direction of pleasing Krishna. At least that's the life of devotion. Free will choices in the direction of pleasing Krishna. So here's a little picture of a crystal ball. You know, like what's the future going to be? Maybe even like what was the past? What's the future going to be? And whatever the future is going to be, it's just going to be because we're in the hand of fate. So some people, they're fatalists, like doesn't matter. Kind of like existentialism. I learned about existentialism because in high school I studied French. And Camus was a big time a proponent of existentialism. So I had to read The Stranger in French. L'étranger. It was just like whatever's going to be is going to be. So nothing matters because it's going to be whatever it's going to be. And though he felt something, so he went and killed somebody and he was put in jail and he was sentenced to death. And through the whole thing, he was like, whatever's going to be is going to be. And he ended his life by driving his car off a cliff. Whatever's going to be is going to be because nothing matters. So that's, the fatalism, it is their free will operative when things are going to be whatever they're going to be. So what is our regard towards the source of whatever is going to come my way? There's a really nice, where should our attention go when things are happening? Good fortune, ill fortune, we're living our life. Where should our attention go? This verse of Brahma is saying where the attention should go. To the mercy of the personality of Godhead. Here's a nice painting. Prithu and Archie. He's a Shaktivesh avatar, and it's this coronation ceremony. And as you see on the right side, there's Lord Shiva. On the left side, there's Lord Vishnu. And there's different persons that are making different offerings to Prithu. So what happens is Lord Vishnu comes and Lord Vishnu praises Prithu's qualities. And Vishnu says, please request a benediction from me. No, that's, a blank check. Just fill it out, however much you want. And the response that Prithu gives is nice. Yata chared bala hitam pita swayam. As a father, not waiting for the son's demand, does everything for the benefit of the son. Please bestow upon me whatever you think is best for me. That's not exactly fatalism, but it's a relationship with Lord Vishnu. So whatever Vishnu feels is best for us, if it's this or that, if it's good fortune, ill fortune, the relationship doesn't change because some hardship comes and some good fortune comes. Not like, yay, good fortune. Or then misfortune comes. Oh, why is Vishnu doing this to me? That came up in our discussion. Why misfortune? Why inequity? Here's another nice example. This is a painting of King Chitraketu, who became an Uttama Bhagavat and went in the self-same body to Vidyadhara Loka, became a king in Vidyadhara Loka. And here he is in his Vimana coming to visit Lord Shiva. There's Lord Shiva in Mount Kailash with Parvati literally on his lap. And seated before him are Narada and Vyas and other great sages. So Chitraketu coming to visit, he was so elevated that he had a relationship with Lord Shiva like a friend. He was just paying a visit to his friend in Mount Kailash. And he made some comment. Oh, it was an appreciation, but Parvati took it otherwise. The comment was, oh, you're speaking higher knowledge with Parvati on your lap. And he was appreciating, he is such a special person that he remains unagitated, even when others would be very agitated with a situation like this. It's not, or normal people don't speak transcendental topics with their wife on their lap. Parvati took it otherwise. She cursed him. You should become a demon. You have offended my husband, Lord Shiva. You don't know his greatness. You become a demon. He just accepted it. And when after he left, Lord Shiva says, celebrated verse in this section of the Bhagavatam, he's Narayana Para, completely fixed in Narayana, and such persons have this Samadarshana. They see equally heaven, hell, and liberation. They're not like, that's great, I don't want that one, and at least give me this one. There's neutrality towards pleasure and pain, or good fortune, ill fortune. And he thus was qualified. It was an arrangement for him to get a fast track back to Godhead. But then he had the qualification for back to Godhead. Mukti Pade Sadaya Bhak. Indra was less fortunate. He had pride, so Krishna was very kind. He put him in a circumstance purposefully, created a circumstance where Indra would become agitated, his pride would become agitated, and he acted in a wild way, very offensive way. And Krishna's interest was removing his pride. So the misfortune that came to Indra, and for that matter, the misfortune that came to the residents of Vrindavan as a result of Krishna's doing, was actually a benediction. And how we perceive things depends upon our Krishna concept. The past weekend was in Central Jersey. I was told there's a lot of new people, classes that are people. So this was a topic, how to deal with misfortune. Resiliency in the face of calamity. That was one of the topics. And what's calamity? Well, I want is something other than what I want. That's calamity. So we spent some time with these two Sanskrit terms. It fits our topic this morning. Shrishti, I think I mentioned it yesterday. Shrishti and Drishti. Shrishti means creation or what is. And Drishti is how you perceive what is. There's reality in your perception of reality. And something is a calamity if you perceive it as a calamity. And something is Krishna's mercy if you see it as Krishna, if you have that relationship with Krishna fixed. The Bhagavatam is teaching us this point in all circumstances, with the King Chitraketu, Lord Brahma's prayers, here with Indra. So let's go to what Rupa Goswami writes in Nectar Devotion. Here's Prabhupada's summary from chapter 10. This statement, this Tat Tenu Kampam Susamikshimano verse of Srimad Bhagavatam should be the guide of all the devotees. That is the only solace. If the devotee passes his days in that spirit, it is certain that he is going to be promoted to the abode of the Lord. You want a guarantee? You got it. to stick with this principle. Here's Jiva Goswami. All you have to do is simply be alive, same as Sridhar Swami's comment. Alive in devotion, alive and awake in relationship with Krishna. And last, here's Rupa Goswami. Now that other processes have been rejected and bhakti accepted as the process to attain Bhagavan, the process of bhakti is described. The devotee understands that the happiness and distress that he experiences due to performing bhakti and committing aparads, the happiness and distress that he experiences due to performing bhakti and committing aparads are the mercy of the Lord. It is like the father who sometimes makes his child drink milk and sometimes make him drink bitter neem juice, and sometimes embraces and kisses him and sometimes beats him. The devotee thinks that this is the arrangement of the Lord working for his benefit. The Lord knows, and I do not know. Karma and time have no effect on the devotee, so it is his personal arrangement. By his mercy, he sometimes gives me happiness, sometimes gives me distress, considering how to engage me in his service. Actually, that's Vishwanath Chakravarti writing this. Okay, I spent a lot of time on the verse. Let's see if there's some discussion. It's 8:20.
On this point about there's God created differences in the world. But we also know that man has made it worse over time.
Yes.
So when it comes to topics like equity, so to me it seems like they're trying to address man-made or man-aggravated differences, bring back to God-created differences.
That's not how they're thinking. You may think like that.
Right.
They're not thinking like that.
But as a devotee, is it okay to have this Krishna consciousness as the basis, but try to scale back?
Everything has its place, provided Krishna is at the center. War has its place, although war is bad. It has its place if it's directed by the codes of Dharma. Just like this little example, the father may give sweet milk or bitter juice, depending upon the circumstance. So the decisions can be made from a servant of Krishna to allow them, to making adjustments in the material field is okay, provided we understand the nature of the place is what it is. And it's true, yes. Sabrina yesterday evening, that American girl. So this same discussion, because it kept coming up, I kept repeating it, explaining about this conversation I had with her, environmental law. So what are you going to do? Let people just trash the environment? But is environmental law going to stop the mode of ignorance? What's the root cause? So when you're dealing with this, don't forget what the root cause is. It's forgetfulness of Krishna. So it doesn't mean don't be involved in environmental law. or don't be involved in like what your son did. You know, the extinct species, and doing something when you're a little part. Yes, it's not going to stop the thing, but what's the root cause behind its misuse? Instead, being in nature, how are you going to change the most Bhagavad Dharma? It's going to come up over there. Gun violence. Somebody, a teenager, asked that question. Same. So being involved in activism, the word is these days, and the equity is, but activism. That was what her question was at Gita Nagari. It can spirituality and activism go together? Yes. But be clear what the mission is. The mission is pleasing Krishna and allowing Krishna to do what Krishna does. He's reciprocating with living entities, free will, and we don't try to improve his arrangement. We try to help people make proper choices. It's like there was your question is similar, different, but similar to a certain personality. I won't mention his name. Was making a big issue about the Bhaktivedanta Hospital. And so the Madhavananda, the director of the hospital, came to a GBC meeting and said, if you all feel that that we shouldn't be doing this, we'll close it tomorrow. They already closed because of some other problem. So we'll close it tomorrow. Just tell us that you don't want us to do this because it's not what Prabhupada wanted. So he gave all these statistics of how many people had become devotees through the Bhaktivedanta Hospital, how many people are chanting and how many people are appreciating Krishna, which is a big plus. Not just appreciating how they were helped in the hospital, but specifically appreciating Krishna. So when getting involved in causes, we wish to awaken Krishna consciousness. And if that's not there, here's another example. In 2010, I was the GBC chairman. And during 2010, there was this, whatever it was, calamity in one of the Caribbean islands.
Haiti.
Huh?
Haiti earthquake.
Something. I forget what it was. Huh?
Haiti.
Haiti. It was Haiti. Okay. Whatever it was like big calamity. And so what's the chairman of the GBC? What's a responsible leader supposed to do about something like that? So I started getting all these calls. What can I do? I want to help. So I found somebody. Akendra is now living in New York, but he was living in San Domingo at the time, and he was a good organizer. So contact him. I checked. Yeah, I can help. So he just marshaled people who wanted to help to go over there. And after those settlements were made, I was traveling somewhere, passed through the London airport, and ran into like 10 devotees who were going to Haiti because they know how to. So they described what each one of them. Some knew how to build houses from nothing. Some knew how to restore agricultural field when agricultural fields are damaged. And, they had books in French and they had japa beads. So they were doing on the material, but they're also giving spiritual, etc.
So it's, as a follow-up, it seems to me that there could be a variety of responses to calamity or man-made disturbances. So the devotee could engage in activism or just be there for people who are affected, or just be detached. I understand that this is part of material.
I volunteered. I asked Krishna Leela, and she accepted twice because she reminded me. from, it's 3 weeks ago. She's willing to get to do Zoom classes with people who are traumatized in Ukraine, and then go there after it's over and, do trauma healing. But, there's a Krishna conscious basis. It's not just, so man-made, and we look the other way. But why do these things happen? We can't change that. Why is there ignorance in this world? Because people choose ignorance. We can't stop certain people from choosing ignorance. We do things, but it takes the best way to understand the answer to your question is look at how Prabhupada did what he did. Prasadam distribution, not just for poor people. I mean, that was from Bhakti Siddhanta. People were saying, why don't you do things for poor people? His answer, everyone's poor. Who's not poor? So do things for people, everybody. So prasadam distribution should be for everybody. And so look to our acharyas to understand the answer to your question. To make people fortunate is not just change the unequal playing field because of man-made problems. That's there. But awaken the Krishna consciousness while you're doing these other things. And how are you going to do that in school or in the corporate sector, those two fields? How are you going to do that? But minimally, be Krishna conscious. And when you're doing what you're doing and participating in what you're doing, it's with that drive that Krishna consciousness is the real root problem. Lack of Krishna consciousness is the real root problem. Let me see what I can do to do that while I'm doing these other things. And there's the problems they're never going to be over. It's the nature of the place. Finding energy resources now that Russia's cutting off their oil supply and petroleum supply or whatever, natural gas. Okay. So they should have been doing that some time ago. Yes.
This question is about the misfortune. So the common approach the person takes is they say this too shall pass. So here Lord Brahma is not waiting for it to pass, but eagerly waiting for the mercy. But a natural instinct that we all have when we go through challenges and suffering is that we get out of it, that we somehow come out of it. So that's the first part on how to kind of take the next step from that natural instinct.
It depends on your consciousness. If you're Chitraketu, or if you're Maharaj Ambarish, or if you're Prahlad Maharaj, or if you're Haridas Thakur, those are categories of people that have a certain qualification. And if we don't have that qualification, then we do something. Just reading. Where was I reading? I forget. So I forget the source. Maybe if I start speaking about it, my memory will come around. When a king, a Kshatriya, sees inequity, they can't just stand by. They have to protect. It's their nature. So so what you're going to do, and where the line goes, should I something, it a lot depends upon your nature. It depends on all the variables, the circumstance, the resources that you have available to you, So how to respond instead of react, how to respond to misfortune depends a lot on you. And don't depart from the position of being in the mood of serving Krishna, pleasing Krishna. And then you can start making, look with your intelligence, identifying possibilities, and then do. And if you become practiced, it can happen very quickly. If you're not practiced, it takes a bunch of time. Kind of get a piece of paper and put it on paper or your computer, whatever it is. So get it all, because it's in the mind, it's put it in front of you and you can look at it. Is your mind looking at those options?
The second part is, we understand from scriptures that even when misfortune or when a devotee goes through a challenge, that is also the mercy of Krishna. But here Brahma is saying he's eagerly waiting for the mercy of Krishna. So
he's waiting for the mercy of Krishna, and then Krishna can do with him what he likes. It's very similar to what Prithu said. He was expecting good fortune. Brahma is expecting punishment. But do with me what you like. Don't, because you know it's good for me.
It's not like waiting to get out of it, but waiting for whatever Krishna wants.
This is Brahma. It's not all circumstances, but it's very important for us to understand the principle, as Prabhupada writes in Nectar Devotion. It makes you eligible to go back to Godhead. And that is not just be a stoic and bite the bullet and deal with the misfortune and stiff your way through the thing and don't scream. That's not what it means. Don't let your attention waver at all. Prabhupada's phrase, budge even an inch, a fraction of an inch from taking shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. That means being in the mood of service. With being very firm and fast in that principle, then what does come, you're ready. And you're still making free will choices about what does come. And the most important, driving the subordinate free will choices, is this one free will choice: taking shelter of the personality of Godhead in the mood of serving. Then the other things are subordinate. And then Krishna will give intelligence, how to best respond according to your capacities, etc. And it's going to be different for different people in different circumstances. So it's principle, my response is it's principle based, not, the details have to be assessed according to the details of circumstance. Okay.
Question on that. Should it?
Whatever you want. Yes. Hare Krishna.
What I would like to know, for the devotees also, who are the pure devotees of Krishna, it is told in Srimad Bhagavatam, Aprarabdha phalam, Bhutam Bijam phalam. So one who are the pure devotees, all the things, whatever it may be, all get destroyed. And there are many such incidents, like pure devotees also are suffering and having misfortune. So is that a misfortunate also a fortunate in terms of, because we take an example of Kunti Maharani. So in her life, there are many hardships, but God is always with him.
Her.
With her, with the Pandavas. And so is that the misfortunate is also a fortunate, because
That's just the way. Let me respond this way. There's Srishti and there's Drishti. Poison, that's misfortune. But Krishna protected. Burning the house of lac, misfortune. Krishna protected. So misfortune, sent into exile, banished to the forest, misfortune. Fortune. And so there's the reality, and then there's the perception. So if the perception becomes aligned with Krishna is our shelter, that's good fortune. That's good fortune because Krishna's reciprocation will be there for one who is dependent upon him. That's the good fortune. The circumstance when she spoke that verse, Krishna was going to depart. Let the calamities come, because when the calamities come, you come. So let's bring on the calamities, because you'll be with us. Now it looks like things are nice. So you're leaving. But wait a minute, many people have lost their relatives and they're going to be against us. And so there's going to be more calamities. So stick around. Please don't go. But she didn't say it like that, but misfortune, has its silver lining. The expression goes these days. Every cloud has a silver lining. You know that phrase. So for the Krishna conscious person, misfortune is a blessing. That's exactly what Prabhupada writes in commentary to how Bhishma is consoling Yudhisthira. Devotee sees misfortune as blessing because it's from Krishna. Tribulation, blessing. What? Blessing. Because it increases dependence upon Krishna. It takes away the sense of being an enjoyer independent of Krishna, because that which was the enjoyable is taken. And then what? That's tribulation. What do I have left? Does that address your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is from Akiladar Prabhu.
Akiladar?
Yeah.
Okay, he's in India.
While going through life events, when and how do we need to contemplate whether the circumstances are favorable for my KC and what
Favorable for my KC,
Yeah.
my Krishna consciousness.
and what really Krishna wants from me putting me in this.
Well, you need intelligence. And without intelligence, you're going to get bewildered. Because the answer a question like this, it's so broad. How do you discern? You discern with intelligence. That's how you discern. And now, where are you going to get intelligence? That's the next question. From Krishna. Okay. Why doesn't Krishna give me intelligence so I can discern where to draw the line and what's favorable, what's unfavorable, and everything? We have our acharyas and we have our super soul guiding us. And we have scriptures. So familiarize yourself and become well acquainted with those resources, and you'll be in better shape to understand what's favorable, what's unfavorable. And without intelligence, you won't. Therefore, the necessity of becoming well acquainted with a pure devotees, our founder Acharya's teachings, become well acquainted. Please read Prabhupada's books regularly. Anything else? Online? That's it? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.